having me out. I am very excited. I talk very fast, so if I need to slow down, just be like, hey, calm down a minute. I work with, of course, I have my children. I have dogs. I have my husband who's a fireman, and I work with, at this point, 50 kiddos out of foster care. So I talk quick so I can get the point across, and they start listening, and then they cut off when they don't want to listen anymore, husband included. I am with the Transition Center. My offices are with Concho Valley Home for Girls and the Children's Emergency Shelter. Hi. The Concho Valley Home for Girls has been here over 40 years in San Angelo. They help girls ages 12 to 18, sometimes up to 21. The girls live there, and we try to provide a normal type of environment for them. They have chores and things like that. The Children's Shelter has been here since the late 70s, I believe. That is for kiddos that are removed in emergency situations, ages 0 to 17, boys and girls. So those two programs have been around for a while. May not have heard about them. We kind of want to be heard but can't be heard. We have to protect our kiddos. That's our number one priority. So if you ever go down little old Prizer Street and see a little sign in the yard, that's our place. The Transition Center is part of the girls' home, but it's through a grant through the state of Texas. We have been there since 2010. And what we do is help young men and women that were in foster care. Once they turn 16, they enroll in our program and can be in our program until they're 26 years old. We try to, they've done multiple studies that say your young adult's brain development is really start getting set at the age of 25. We want our kiddos that did not have parents present, we want our kiddos to be in the same type of mindset as kiddos that grew up with family members, with support, grandparents, guardians, anything like that. So our program is ages 16 to 26. If they were in foster care and went back to their family, that's awesome. That's what everyone hopes for, especially our kiddos. We can still help them. If they were in foster care and got adopted, which is amazing, we can still help them. If they were in foster care and things did not work out for them the way they wanted and they left foster care on their own, a runaway, and then come back years later and think, oh, I need help, we're here to help them. If they were in foster care and turned 18 in foster care, that's where it is called aging out. So when you age out in foster care, you turn 18, the state says, here's your driver's license or your social security card, here's your birth certificate, you're an adult, bye, and the kiddo is on their own. That's it. They get no more help from if they were in a group home, anything, they're done. They're adults in the state's eyes. Thankfully, part of the program thought, that's not going to work for some of these kiddos, and that's where our program was developed. So I have kiddos that come out of care that can balance a bank checkbook better than I can, better than people at the bank can, and I have kiddos that come out of care that will call me at 8 o'clock at night and say, how do I wash my clothes? How do I turn on a washing machine? So it's a wide variety of kiddos. Unfortunately, with some of our kiddos, as soon as they age out, they've been kind of under someone's thumb the whole time they were in care, and they want nothing to do with anyone, authority level, I guess you could say, and they go out and they have the time of their life that they think they should have, and sometimes that results in children, and then they kind of get looped back into reality and think, oh, what am I going to do now? So we're here. We are the parent that steps in. When I got off work earlier, I thought, oh, I'm going to go home and I'm going to freshen up and make supper. And I had a kiddo call, and the minute I picked up my phone, I could hear the tears, and I thought, oh, okay, this is not going to work the way I wanted it to. It happens. I have kiddos that message me 11 o'clock at night that they think they're going to lose their job. They would normally call their parent, so that's where we step in and help these kiddos. With our grant that we have, we can pay a car payment, we can pay an insurance, we can buy them groceries, diapers, just general everyday stuff, cleaning supplies, hygiene items. We want them to be able to call us and say, I really need help with this, and we can help them right away. Now, on that same note, we have kiddos that think, well, I'm going to go and get my hair done and my nails done, and I'm going to call you and have you pay my bills. That doesn't work like that, and we do have to go, okay, listen, that's not how this program works. But I speak to them like I would speak to my own kiddos if they thought that was, the best way to spend their money. We have a little meeting and go over finances and things like that. With my kids, I call them my kids. They're my work kids. So that's when I say my kids, I'm not referring to mine, my work kids. We do trainings. We do a budget training multiple times a year. We do parenting classes, car clinic, show them how to change their oil, how to check tire pressure, anything that your parents taught you when you were younger, we try to step in and do that. We teach them about renting, about how you can't move out of an apartment in the middle of the night because you don't have rent money, so you're just going to leave. We teach them about transferring bills and utilities and things like that. So we really try to be that parenting role to them, which doesn't always work. Some get very mad at you, and that's just kiddos. My daughter gets mad at me all the time. So you just kind of have to let it roll off and go, okay, we'll try this again tomorrow. With my kiddos that have children, we normally keep on hand, we get donations of toys and things like that, and birthday supplies. So I always have my kids call me if their kiddo has a birthday coming up. Just little things that they wouldn't be able to spend money on normally, we try to help with that. At Christmas, we try to get as many gifts as we want. I had a kiddo. He actually is at Tech getting his master's degree now. He had been in foster care since he was 11. I had him from 18 to 22 until he moved. When he was 21, he was in town and wanted to do Christmas for him. So we had the big gift bags at Walmart that we would fill full of stuff that people donated. They would kind of adopt one of our kiddos. So he had a full bag, and then we had turkey, stuffing. We had a whole box of food for him. So I said, let me tell you what, let me get your pies and the food. You get your heavy bag, and we're done. We'll go out to the car. And he was probably 6'5". He was a pretty large guy. And so he walks in with this little bitty box, and he's like, why am I carrying this little bitty box and you're carrying all that stuff? And I said, well, I don't know, because that whole bag is yours. And he looked at me, and he put his arm on my shoulder, and he said, I have to sit down. And so he sat down, And he cried, and he cried, and then I cried, and then we both cried. And then another coworker came in, and she started crying, and we had no clue what was going on. But he had gotten one Christmas gift when he was 11, and he left that foster family 3 days after Christmas, and they kept the gift. And so he had went to a different foster home every year up until he aged out when he was 18. And then he was just on his own. I mean, his buddies, that he lived with on and off, they would celebrate and eat and stuff like that. But that was his first Christmas gift that he could remember, besides the one that they took from him when he left, to give to the next kiddo that was coming in. And I mean, I can never be a foster parent. I foster dogs, and I've kept all of them. So I know being a foster parent is hard. I know it is. But my kiddos, I mean, you can look at each and every single one of them and know, but just by the look on their face, how grateful they are for even the smallest thing. He thought this little bitty, and it happened to be a watch, he thought this little bitty gift was all he got. And so he drug that bag through our office. We're just a crying train going all the way out to his car. And now he's getting his master's at Tech. And because of the location, he's not in my program anymore, but he still messages me, and we keep up, and he's wonderful. And that's the impact we want. Every one of our kids that ages out, we want them to feel what he felt that day. It doesn't always happen. One of the rules with the program is they have to be working or in school. Some of my kiddos, they don't want to work. They don't want to work. They don't want to go to school. If you age out of foster care in the state of Texas, you get free college for life, as long as you activate your paperwork by the age of 25. Now, you can take one semester, pass it, think, I'm going to wait 10 years, go back, it's free. So college isn't for some of my kiddos. I had one girl, bless her heart, I posted on our little group page welding classes at Howard. And she called me and she said, Miss Kassie, can girls take welding class? Oh, of course. I said, yes, please do. We paid for all of her supplies, more supplies I never knew went into welding than this, what it does. We paid for all of it. We put her through the 3 main welding courses. She aged out I think 2 days before she ended the last one. She's now married. Her and her husband bought a house. She has a welding job, and they can pay for everything on their own. I mean, and she thought girls couldn't do it. So we do help pay for alternative type classes, continued education classes at Howard. We have a wonderful support system between Howard and ASU. ASU has a program called Fostering Rams that is Dr. Javier Flores is the head of, and Candace is she's my wonderful point of contact. I can call her and we talk about our kids and try to get them all on the right track. We also have Workforce Solutions has a program called WIOA, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. They have a foster care section of that program. So if the kiddo is in foster care, they kind of get moved up on the list and help with them finding the type of job that they want to do. If they want to do cosmetology, the workforce will say, okay, this is the classes you need to enroll in. They'll then call me. We'll pay for combs, scissors, brushes, all that good stuff. WIOA will get the kiddo enrolled. Classes are paid for, has all their supplies, boom, there they go. And that's the goal, is to get these kiddos to where they're functioning members of society without having to go, oh, I'm 35, can you please help me? I was in foster care. We don't want them to use that as a crutch. It's awful. I'm sure 90% of what all my kiddos went through is terrible. I mean, sometimes they sit and tell me when they sign up, and it's hard. I mean, I go home and I look at my kids and I think, oh, I mean, it's just, I mean, sometimes it'll rattle you to your core. But when they walk out of there when they're 26 and they're like, thank you for everything you've done, I got it from here, that's, your heart just explodes. So these kiddos are very special. They are very forgotten, which is hard for the kids because they want to be able to go into things. And like, you know, with my kiddos at ASU, they're like, that's embarrassing to say I was in foster care. I don't want to be part of fostering Rams because I don't want other kids to make fun of me. And that's, I mean, there's a lot of making fun of people going on everywhere, regardless of if they were in foster care or whatever the deal is. So my kids, I just tell them, you've got to be strong. And if they make fun of you, who cares? You're not going to see them in 20 years. Leave it alone. Let's go. Let's do what we got to do to get you out of here and functioning and happy and things like that. So, I mean, they're special kiddos. I feel like a lot of times with the girls' home and with the shelter and with my program and even with the boys' ranch, people immediately think, oh, these kids did something wrong. These kids are bad kids. That's not always the case. I do have kiddos that went through JJC that sit there in my office when they're 24 and go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I'm glad that I did it in my youth and I don't have to worry about it now. But most of the time, this is through no fault of the kids. And I mean, it just happens that's the life they were given, and they rolled with it and rolled through the punches, quite literally sometimes, and now they're on their own 2 feet and they can do better. And they try and they push themselves and they're just dedicated, and I feel like with our team, we're dedicated to helping them get better, and that's what we do every day. So I think I covered everything. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. My team for the Transition Center is me at the office, but my executive director and our secretary, there's only 3 of us in the whole office for all 3 programs, but they have my back, and just like I would with the girls in the children's shelter, that's how they are with my kids. And then of course we have ASU, Howard, and then WIOA. There's also, it's called the PAL program, aftercare for kids that have aged out. Their worker and I work very closely together with the kiddos.
What is the biggest challenge for these kiddos, the ones that are really trying to make it? Is it housing, childcare, all of the above? I'm sure, really, but what would you say?
Housing is a major thing. They have these things called, of course, when you look at the state of Texas, San Angelo is very, very small compared. So most places, there's a transition center in every region in Texas, and most of them have SILs, which is Supported Independent Living. San Angelo just now got one. It is at ASU. We also have one in the making called New Journey that the kiddos can live at. They help clean up. I'm not quite sure what the rules are set in place. It's for each SEAL can make their own rules, but finding an apartment in San Angelo is very hard to find something where they feel safe in. Of course, they have a lot of past trauma and things like that. So if they're in this little apartment and the couple's fighting next door, I mean, that could be open a whole can of worms for them. So finding a place is very hard. We have, of course, HUD that helps with housing, but they have a waiting list. And then, so that's that's why we can help with a rental payment. And as far as child care, the Workforce Solutions has a CCS, Child Care Services. Former foster care does get moved up on that list, but it depends on the age of their baby and things like that. So we can help pay for daycare as well. But that is the biggest struggle, is finding, when I was talking about some of my kiddos not working, if they're working and paying for rent and daycare, their whole check is going to daycare. I mean, some daycares are $240 a week, and that's for one kiddo, and that's what their paycheck is. So that's very hard for any young adult, I think.
Is your program in need of volunteers, or is that not something you do?
For my program, it's non-residential, so they don't live there, so we really don't have a need for volunteers. We have an art therapy training coming up, which is I'm really excited for it. The kiddos are gonna write on a canvas their insecurities, everything that they don't like, things like that, and then they're gonna paint over it and make it something beautiful. And so when we do trainings like that, if anybody has any ideas for training and stuff, they can come in and set up a training and do it with the kiddos. So that's really the only area that we have a need for that.
So you mentioned earlier that like at Christmas, there are donations that are done. Is that primarily the only time you're getting donations, or is it something year round? And what kind of things do you need?
We can always use, so cleaning supplies is a big thing, obviously with COVID, but before that, because we use quadruple the cleaning supplies that you normally use in your home. So we can always use cleaning supplies, paper goods, diapers, wipes, all size diapers. We can always use stuff like that. And then gift cards. I like to give my kiddos $100 Walmart gift cards if they're doing well at school or at work, like they haven't missed any days. Kind of an incentive to keep up the good work. I cannot give any type of restaurant gift cards. And so anything like that, just to kind of let them know someone's thinking about them, and here, go out and have a Lone Star cheeseburger, so you don't have to sit in your apartment tonight, stuff like that.
I have a son that works for a children's home in Ohio, and they get a lot of court referrals.
Yes.
So not all of their kids come from that, but many of them do. And they decided to build a transition house.
Oh.
So that the kids, when they got out of there at 18, they'd have somewhere to go. Yes. While they transition. Their problem has been keeping them there.
Yes.
Because when they get 18 and don't have to listen to anybody anymore, well, they don't want to stay there and have somebody else making their decisions for them. And the only thing, and the home itself has nothing over them. All they have is, if you don't behave yourself, you can't live here.
Yeah.
That's all they have. But they have a very hard time getting those kids to stay there long enough so that they will have an impact on them getting on with their lives.
Yes.
What experience have you had dealing with that dilemma?
That is hard. I know with our girls at the girls' home, obviously because of the situation they're coming from, being in CPS care and things like that, they can't have electronics, so they can't have a cell phone. The world is ending, they can't have a cell phone. So if they graduate from school and say, oh, I think I want to go to ASU or Howard, they can live at the house. 99.9% of them do not. They want out, they want a laptop, they want a cell phone, they're gone. So that is, and we have monthly calls with all of the transition centers, and that is just, it's hard because they've had somebody tell them what to do their entire lives, and now they don't want to do that. And I think that's with kiddos also. My daughter, her first year at ASU, she's like, I'm gonna live in the dorms. I'm like, we live half a mile from the dorms and we're free. And she was like, nope, I'm out of here. And Christmas, she's like, nope, I wanna come home. And so that, it's hard for the kiddos. And I do have some kids that they age out and Matthew refers them and I contact them and they're like, no, I'm done with being in any type of program like this at all. And then years later, they'll call and go, oh, can I get in your program, please? And I'm like, absolutely. So I think it's just, every kiddo is different. They just have to learn. Now at ASU, if they're enrolled at ASU, they get free housing. And if they take summer classes, they get to stay in free housing the whole time. Now, if they choose not to take summer classes, they do have to move. So we encourage them to stay in summer classes so that they can at least live in the dorms. Of course, the dorm, there's not a whole lot of rules that they have to follow there. So they like that. But that is a problem.
As a retired counselor, I know that CPS provides counseling.
Yes.
Until the kids age out. What happens when they are in your program? I know that would be, in that case, voluntary, and sometimes they would do it and sometimes not, but do you provide access to that, and who pays for it?
Yes, so if they age out of care, they get Medicaid until they're 26, as long as they renew it every year. West Texas Counseling and Guidance, we refer our kiddos over to there. If they need the services with ADAC, Alcohol and Drug Abuse Council, we will refer to there. Of course, most kiddos are like, nope, I don't need help, I'm good. Some of my kiddos will call me and say, I need someone to talk to right now. And I'm there to listen. If I'm not there, I will find somebody that is there to listen to them until we can get them in with someone, because I just can't, with this day and age, I just don't want to risk any type of, let me try to call somebody for you tomorrow and see if they can get you in. No, we want to be on top of that, because you never know.
I would like to circle back to your things that you need to function, supplies and what have you. Yes. Do you publish a list identifying recommendations of this is the kind you need to buy, or
yes,
this is the quantity you need to buy, so that someone, if they were to want to participate in that program, would have some guidance as to what to exactly purchase?
Yes, I actually have some in my purse. We have it, the website is conchokids.org. That's on the brochures, and that has how you can help. That has info on there as well.
So you may not be able to speak to this, but one of the questions I have, you mentioned that you have as many as 50 kids in there right now. And so they range obviously from the 16 to the 26.
Yes.
But do you have an idea of how many kids are in foster care in the Concho Valley or in San Angelo that potentially could be part of your program?
If they're 14, I believe at the age of 14, if it looks like they're going to age out of care, then Matthew gets a list of those kiddos, and so he has a running list for me. I can't speak on how many kiddos are in foster care in San Angelo. I know in this region area, it's thousands. I mean, it's my older kids kind of have a harder time because I mean, they're teenagers. And so a lot of times people are like, oh, I want a smaller child and things like that. So there are a lot more kiddos that go into care as teenagers that age out of care rather than getting adopted.
So kind of related to that, how many kids have been through your program?
I've been doing that position for 7 years. I would say well over 300 or 400.
That's the ones that choose to do it.
Yes,
There's
that's
thousands that could.
yes, and that's counting the ones that, like my boy who moved to Tech. I mean, he was in my program for a while, and I referred him to the transition center in Lubbock. And I have a girl that's moving in August to San Antonio, and so they don't always go from age 16 all the way to 26. I do have some that have. One of my girls went into the children's shelter in an emergency situation. They thought she would be a good fit for the girls' home. This was long before I worked there. And then she was our youngest kiddo at the girls' home. She went in the girls' home at age 12, stayed till she was 18, and then went through my program and aged out when she was 26. So we do have some that are really full circle with all three programs.
So what is the region that you service? Is it just Concho Valley? Is it just Tom County?
DFPS, it's layered different, I guess. I go from San Angelo, I have a whole list, Junction, Brady, Miles, Wall. I just have, I can't really tell you how many. And there's not a lot of kiddos. I used to have 22 kids in Brady. So that was a fun drive to make all the time. Back and forth to Brady. We'd go on a Saturday and go to the Country Music Museum. My kids were like, please don't drag us there again. And so if I get a call that I have a kiddo and it's that far away, I'm driving. And then Midland also has kind of a different type of transition center. So that all up in Midland is in our area, but they have someone that can help them there.
Do you get young folks that have transitioned, say, out of the Metroplex? Do they transition here? You provide the means for them to get here and begin the process?
Usually, like if my kiddos are leaving my region, I will give them, I generally do Walmart gas cards because there's Walmarts everywhere. And so I will give them gas cards to get where they need to go and vice versa. If they're coming from Dallas or things like that, they'll pay for them to get down here, contact me, say I have this kiddo, and I'll get them enrolled.
Anybody else? Thank you so much, Kassie. Let's show her our appreciation.